It's a very, very sad day for the country today as we woke this morning to the news of the death of New South Wales Senator and former Army General Jim Molan. Here on Sky, we knew Jim well. He was a regular on so many of our programs, distilling his immense intelligence and knowledge to us all and helping us to understand our world better. He was no run-of-the-mill politician. Real world experience as an Army General meant that he was unafraid of telling it how it is, and you knew whatever he was saying, it was coming from a place of deep experience and understanding. His most prescient warnings about regional security, defence and even AUKUS will be essential as Australia navigates a tricky stretch of foreign policy over coming years. Someone who knew the late Senator Molan well is a former Army soldier himself, another great Australian patriot. He's Shadow Assistant Defence Minister Phillip Thompson MP, the member for Herbert in Townsville. And Phil, thank you so much for joining us. It's under very sad circumstances, but you must have some very strong and fond reflections of Jim Molan.
Yeah, it's a very sad day to hear the passing of Jim. He was a soldier, a senator. He was a mate, he was a patriot, he was a leader, and he was a family man. And to hear of his passing wasn't just sad for me and for the defence community as well as the parliamentarians, but the tremendous loss that his family must be feeling. Jim was a great guy. He was someone that opened his heart and his knowledge to you if you wanted to sit down and talk. And the first thing, every time I'd call him or every time we'd sit down and have a chat, the first thing he would say to me is, "How's Jenna and the girls? How's your family?" And that just demonstrates the kind of man he is. He was a leader on the battlefield and he was a leader in the Senate.
Phil, your service for Australia, I've told you to your face, I'm in awe of you, mate, amongst a number of people I know who served in our country's name in tough places. But you witnessed him in action as an Army General. You've seen him in Parliament. He brought similar characteristics to all of that. I mean, as you say, amongst everything else, he was a mate. He had this booming laugh. But he knew his stuff, didn't he?
Oh, he did, and he struck fear into our enemies in Iraq when he was a part of his service there. He was very instrumental in Operation Sovereign Borders, and then he brought his worldly experience to the Parliament, and he struck fear in our enemies in the Senate. He was a great man, and I remember sitting with him, and we'll talk about national security, and we'll talk about the defence, and I'm talking about frontline, and I'm talking about on the battlefield, and he's talking about the strategic operation and the direction. He's a great man, and he really complemented our Parliament. He complemented this country, and he's just a great serviceman.
One of Jim Molan's greatest legacies is as that architect of Operation Sovereign Borders, stop the arrival of illegal asylum seekers. I mean, I know you weren't in the Parliament necessarily at that time, but there was a lot of good that came out of what was a very, very tough operation in Australia's favour.
Yeah, definitely. Jim, he was Tony Abbott's pick as a special envoy for Operation Sovereign Borders. He saved lives. The Operation Sovereign Borders saved lives. It stopped people coming via boat, which stopped people then drowning at sea, being eaten by sharks. He did an amazing job there, and he worked closely with Tony Abbott. He's worked closely with senior members of both sides of Parliament to ensure that the illegal trafficking of humans stop coming via boat to Australia. He's always been open about it. He's always spoken about it. I've watched him in debates speak about what he did and what he put in place, and I think he gave a great service to this nation doing that.
Yeah, in so many ways. So Phil, I mean, you come from the fortress city of Townsville, such a big defence community there. There must be some feeling amongst the defence community, the veterans community today, because this bloke really, in every possible way, physically as well as from an experience point of view, cast a very large shadow. He
did. I've had people contact me throughout the Townsville defence community and the wider defence community throughout the country. I've had people who have served their nation who are members of the Labor Party call me today and say that they're sorry for the loss of Jim Molan and to pass on their sorrow to his family. He cast a big shadow over our community, and he was respected by everyone, and we're going to be worse off without him here, but this nation was better off for having him.
Well, Phil, it's an incredibly sad day, and I appreciate the fact that it's difficult for you to talk about these sorts of things because he was a mate and a colleague. So the fact you've taken time to join us tonight, I greatly appreciate. There's a lot going on in Townsville. We'll have to get you on to talk about some of the problems you got with the youth crime that seems to be there and the efforts you're putting on the ground in Townsville to try and make a difference. But maybe that's for another day. Well done to you, Phil.